Hey everybody, if you're watching this on replay, I'm just going to pause for a minute and I'm going to let everybody, this is an Instagram live session if you're watching this on YouTube. Just going to let some people join here, give them a minute before I get started. What I want to talk about is I get a lot of questions quite a bit on retailer exclusives, like how do you do them, what are they about, how much do they cost, all that stuff. So what I'm going to try to do, pretty quickly. I don't want to spend too much time on this. What I want to do is just kind of just talk about retailer exclusives. I know there's some negative stigma behind them as far as hurting market prices, but it's actually a really good thing in most cases, actually, for the entire comic book community. And I'll explain the pros and cons of retailer exclusives. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break it down. Because there's two very different ways to do retailer exclusives. There's the big two, which is Marvel and DC, and then there's also indies. So I'm just gonna have those two groups kind of segregated, because all of the indies do everything similarly, and then Marvel and DC they do their exclusive programs similarly. So just gonna talk a little bit about it. So first off, I'll just jump into indies right now. So personally, indie exclusives, those are my favorite, and here's why. And I think these are what actually benefit the comic book community more so than the Marvel and DC exclusives, especially when it comes to market pricing and long-term value. So if you're in the value game, then you're definitely going to want to listen to what I'm about to talk about. So indie comics. So we know, a lot of us, if you follow my store and what I do, I sell exclusives, and I've been doing a lot of indies lately. And there's a good reason for that. Is because independents are so much fun to do, and the reason why I say that is they give you a lot more creative freedom on not only what's on the book, but the actual artist itself. A lot of times you don't get those options with the big two. And I'll just talk about one of the first ones that I've done. I'll just talk about this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 100 that just released this week. So the artist is John Zhang. I don't know if anybody else heard of him before the Turtle exclusive that I released, but he also has done exclusives for other stores. The way that I actually got to meet him is I was at MegaCon, and I had the Deceased One variants that he had released through Comics Elite, and I don't know if Unknown Comics carried them or not, but Comics Elite and Unknown Comics usually carry similar exclusives, where they did. But so I took some books up to him, and this is what's great about doing exclusives. You can go up if you're at a show, and you go up to an artist, you just start talking to them if you like their work. And a lot of them will be happy to do exclusives. So you build these relationships with these artists, and even the management. If the artists have certain representatives, like Scott's Collectibles, they represent a lot of artists like In-Hyuk Lee, Kale. I don't know how to say his last name correctly. I'm gonna probably butcher it. I'm gonna say Nagu, or probably you. And I think the NG combination is a Y sound, I think. And In-Hyuk Lee, all those guys, if you want to do an exclusive, you have to go through their management, which would be like Scott's Collectibles, or if there's other ones out there that represent these artists. So you build these great relationships with not only these artists, but if they work with a manager, then you get to meet all these people. It's great, and that's what makes the comic book community so awesome, because you can go up to shows and you just talk to these people. They're normal people, and you build these relationships with them. So once you have those relationships established, and you like their work, then they'll start doing exclusives for you, and it really not only helps stores brand promotion, but it also helps with the individual artist brand promotion. Reason being is, say I want to start building a client base that has that likes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? So what I would do is I would start putting out Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles exclusives, marketing them, putting them on eBay, put them on, my own store, put them on all the various sales channels out there on the internet, and take advantage of all that. And by doing so, not only am I spreading my own brand, but I'm also spreading the artist brand. But the artists also share the covers that they do for us. So if, say, Zhan Zhang does a cover and then he shares it, anybody who doesn't follow me, but follows John and likes his work, then they're gonna find my store, and it helps me out too. So it's a very symbiotic relationship that retailers and artists have, especially on the indies, because a lot of indies, and this is where I'm going to get into some detail here as far as how the exclusive programs work. A lot of indies, their minimum print runs are either 500 or 1,000, which really isn't awful. It's not too hateful, especially if it's 500. So yeah, but I'll tell you about the big two later. But keep those numbers in mind: 500 and 1,000. It just depends on what company, what book it is, and all that. But it's a much more manageable minimum print run that you're buying into, or committing to, I should say. So not only do you have and you can go up to 3,000, 5,000, whatever. But the minimum, so they're way more flexible than it, like the independents are more flexible to do this, and that's why you see more stores do independents versus Marvels and DCs. So the more flexible on the print runs, they're flexible on the artists, and they're a lot more. They're very easy to communicate with. Like I will be shooting out emails to representatives at like IDW and Aftershock at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, and I'm getting responses at 10 p.m. that night or over the weekend. So they communicate a lot more effectively. So it's a lot easier to get things done. When I will just say recently there's been issues with retailers not able to get things done in time with the big two recently. It's just the communication's not as there. These independents really want your business because, like I said, not only are we marketing our own brand and the artist, but we're also marketing the publisher itself too. So these publishers are very happy for even stores as small as mine to pick up these titles, to bring these artists in that do really great work. We all, and then it just helps everybody out in general, and it actually builds value within the comic book market because you're trying to actually grow the market from the ground up. It's more of a grassroots type thing, right? So it's wonderful, but when you start working with the big two, and I'm going to kind of transition there, the big two, Marvel and DC. So I can't speak from DC too much from experience because I've never done a DC exclusive, and I'm going to tell you why. They don't let you, like if you go into previews and you see a title or a book or something that you want to do an exclusive on, DC won't let you just do an exclusive on anything. They will only release certain books, certain titles where you can do exclusive. That's why when you see things like this week that released the Villain of the Year, the Harley Quinn book, right? That's why you see 50 variants of one title on DC, because when DC allows retailers to jump on a title finally with an artist, then they're all doing it all at once, and that just waters down and saturates the market on that particular title. So you won't see me charging too much. Like I will pick up other shops' books at wholesale for DC, but you won't see me doing my own. And the reason is because of that. Not only is the market saturated when those titles are released, but also the minimum print runs you have to order. So with DC, you have to buy in the first one. The cover A is a 3,000 print run, right? Yeah, the Joker's the other one too. But with the minimum print run, it's 3,000 just for the cover A, right? So before you can do another cover, which is with DC, you don't go straight from cover A to Virgin. You actually have to buy into their minimal trade dress, and then you can buy into their Virgin, which is your 3,000, 1,000, 1,000. So you're buying 5,000 units compared to 500 units. So we all do math, right? That's 10 times as many, right? Just add an extra zero on. So the buy-in is way more expensive. So you're looking at, as a retailer, depending on the book, you're gonna spend anywhere from 15,000 to 25,000 on a book, depending on the cover price, just to be able to carry those exclusives for the buy-in for the 3,000. Whether it just depends if it's a $3.99 title or if it's a $9.99 title. So the cost on the retailer side, what my cost would be, is dependent on the book's cover price and the artist fee that they charge either DC or Marvel as built into the per unit cost. So it's a much more risky investment. You're more likely as a retailer, you have a solid foundation of other smaller retailers like myself buying from you. There's a good chance that you're gonna lose money on it. It's just not a smart proposition. And then that's the same thing with Marvel. Now with Marvel's a little bit better. They're a little bit more flexible than DC from what I've heard. Like I said, I can't really speak from experience on DC because I've never done one with them. But with Marvel, I've done a few. I'm not talking about 180 and 181 here. This is straight up retailer exclusives. I want to stay on subject here. So with the Marvel, which I've done a few, I've done Cosmic Ghost Rider, I've done Absolute Carnage. I'm doing some more with 5-star exclusives with Nelson from Big Time Collectibles, and Stephanie at Sanctum Sanctorum, and Sandy at Philbars, and Matt at Slab City. I think I didn't leave anybody out there, right? I gave you all your shout out. Okay, so we do that as a cost sharing between retailers because that minimizes our risk on buying those 3,000 and 4,000 if you want a Virgin with Marvel. So with Marvel, you can go straight from trade dress to Virgin, or even any kind of secondary cover. It could be a Virgin. It could be like a modified version of the trade dress, like if it's like weathered or worn looking. They'll let you do that, which is awesome. Like I love that. I love that flexibility. And with the artists, like Marvel and DC both, they won't let you particularly pick your own artist per se, because they have approved artists that they will only let work on their titles. So I can't be on Instagram and find an artist that has not really much of a following or nobody hasn't heard of them and say, hey, I really like this guy's work. Here's examples of his work. I've talked to him. He's interested in doing this. Like an indie would if their art looks good enough and they're willing to stick within the guidelines, like when you do a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cover, not only does it have to be approved by IDW, but it has to be approved by Nickelodeon also. So there's because they actually own the property rights to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I guess, since it has to go through them. So as you're getting the art approved, like it gets reviewed by the various people that are involved that own the property that need to approve it. But with independents, it's a lot easier, and you're actually more involved because you actually act as the liaison between the artist and the publisher. Like when I went to IDW to do my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 100 book, I was actually representing John Jang, and I was the go-between. Like I was talking to IDW, and they'd tell me what I needed to tell John, and I was more actively involved. Hey Nelson, I already gave you your shout out, buddy. So I was more actively involved in the process, and I like that because it gives me more to say. But when you do Marvel or DC, you pretty much say, hey, here's our artist, or Marvel sends you the list of artists, or you say, hey Marvel, I'd like this artist, and then they reach out to the artist for you. The artist will say, yeah, I got time to do it, or no, and then Marvel will come back, and then Marvel actually acts as the liaison and not the retailer themselves, which, I mean, it has its pros and cons, right? So if I'm not having to micromanage an exclusive project, it's going to free my time up for other things, but that also means that the final art that comes back might have to have more revisions, because instead of you and the artist going back and forth, and then sending it into the publisher for approval, like with the indies, it's like you go to Marvel goes to the artist goes back to Marvel goes back to you, and blah, 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 blah. And you have to depend on constant communication, which doesn't always happen. You don't always get the communication in time, and then things can break down a lot easier and things like that. So that's a definite con when working with the big two. But when you're working with the indies, it's not a con at all. Like it takes up more of your time, but you have more say in the end product, you have more say in the artist, you have more say in the print run, you got more say in absolutely everything, which is awesome. And like I said, it helps build up, it helps build the value of the community from the ground up, and it doesn't saturate the market. It doesn't water the other covers for that title down, because there are, so if you like indies sell out a lot faster, right? because of the 500 print runs, you're more likely to sell out. So once those books sell out from the retailer, then they start creeping up in the secondary market. But when you do a Marvel or a DC, then you've got to unload 4,000 copies, or you have to artificially create demand by destroying the 1,500 copies of your 3,000 print run, destroying, taking the best 1,500 and saying, hey, it's a 1,500 print run now, not a 3,000. And then hopefully that sells out. And the same thing with the Virgins, like a lot of retailers do, and I do myself, because there's no way I can handle 1,000. Like if I did a Marvel exclusive by myself, I'd have to handle 4,000 books, like I did for Absolute Carnage, plus all the variants, the ratio variants that came with them. That's a lot to handle. So what I did is I cut it down. I think I cut my Absolute Carnage down to 600, but I kept the 3,000 because it's like whatever. But for those ones, for the Virgins, I did cut them down to 600, and that's where the COAs come in, because everybody said there was a big stink about 2 years ago about a retailer that was selling more than the 600 they said they were going to sell, and so now all the retailers are using COAs, and that's how we're holding ourselves accountable, saying, hey, if there isn't a COA with this, then this isn't part of the 600 that we said was going to be released in circulation, so it should not be as valuable. Although a year, 2 years down the road, people end up not caring about COA, so it's just like whatever. And then that's why you don't see COAs all the time with independents, because as retailers we want those initial 500s. That's probably a good starting number, but we're not going to trash any. And if we want 600, then we're just going to buy 600 and say it's a 600 count print run. So it's not like, it's not required, or you don't need the COA to be involved. So those are the biggest things. And the other thing with the big two, and I know with Marvel recently they'll reuse. I know you all have seen it. They'll reuse like another cover that's been available for direct order. Only they'll have it available in Virgin trade dress, or Virgin trade dress. That's like an oxymoron. A Virgin version of the trade dress of that direct order. And when I say direct order, I mean it's just a cover that any retailer can order straight from Marvel. So anytime that happens, it dilutes not only the cover value of whatever cover is being remade into a Virgin, but the Virgin cover itself is not itself going to hold value as well. So that's clearly a money grab in those cases. In the past, that I'm perfectly okay. Like if it's a cover A or B that doesn't have a ratio on it, like that's fine, because those covers generally don't really have a ton of value, aftermarket value to begin with. But when it becomes a ratio, and especially as the higher the ratio goes, 1 in 25 is not too bad, because you think most Virgin covers sell for between like $20 and $30 anyways. But once you get into if it's like a 1 in 50 or a 1 in 100 or something like that, like if Marvel does something stupid, to make like a 1 in 100 Virgin of something, that just kills their own market. It hurts retailers. It hurts consumers who is committed to the 1/100, and it's just bad business, at least I think, in my opinion, to do something like that. So and that's obviously a cash grab, because say if you got something that is rare and scarce, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've found all these resources, I've got so many more of these, and I don't have to put in the work to get those other ones, it's going to drive the value down immensely, and it's just a bad look for everybody. So is it going to happen more? I know there's a couple floating out there now. Is it going to happen more? I don't know. It's just one of those things that is a retailer you just have to deal with. You just kind of like, whatever, and go do your own thing, make money your own way. But that's just something to keep an eye on if you're looking out on those variants. Just keep in mind that those values are going to be hurt in the long run, because it's going to drive the print runs up, and they're not going to be as scarce. So it's just not a good idea to do that. And as retailers, we need to be responsible too, right? Because we're the cultivators of the economy. So anything we do or put out is going to directly affect the economy, and we all have the ability to make market manipulations, because we're not regulated like stocks and securities. But although comic books act, as far as value wise, they act like stocks and securities. And if you guys heard me talk about that, like I'm not going to go over that again. I just kind of want to stick on exclusives and their impact on the comic economy. But that's why I'm thinking this is important to touch base on. We as retailers have to be very responsible and very conscientious of our actions, because we're the ones that cultivate and nurture this economy. And anybody at one time could damage it, whether it be from putting something out like when I talk about ratios and like what ratios to look out for, like how I always say ratios that are put out with exclusives, they're going to get watered down. The values aren't going to be as high. Think about Ghost Spider 1, right? The Ji Hyung Lee 1/100. Like that book holds value because nobody put out an exclusive for it. Now if five comic book companies, retailers put out exclusives for that, those 1/100s would be in abundance, and they would not be $500-$600 a piece right now. They would be $200 maybe. It's a great piece of art, and I think it would have some value to it, but not the value that it has now. So we have to be careful. So if someone, actually that's a really good example. So if someone in the future puts out a 1/100 version of a Ji Hyung Lee 1/100 of that Ghost Spider, they're gonna immediately destroy the value of that book. Like it's gonna go from a $600 book to a $50 book immediately, because that's the effect it has on the market. So we have to be very, very, very careful and conscientious of that, because a lot of people, other retailers, other customers are going to be rubbed the wrong way, and that's going to have a direct effect on sales on not only that book but future books, because you're going to lose trust in the market. And then once people start losing trust in the market, or what you might hear on the news is called consumer confidence, is a buzzword they use a lot when they talk about economics on the mainstream media. Consumer confidence is going to fall within not only the exclusives but the ratios, and it could cause a huge negative effect. So we have to be, and I can't reiterate this more, for any retailer that might be watching this, we have to be responsible and understand what our actions do to the comic book economy. So I am going to get off my soapbox now. I've got a lot of stuff to do. I just want to open it before I bounce. Just want to open up to any questions, exclusive related, that you might have as far as either the process or what they, some kind of comic economic question as far as exclusives or ratios or stuff like that. So, see, and that's actually prime time. Thank you for saying that, because that's something that I, as a retailer, I keep in mind when I want to do exclusives. Like when I put out, I like to put out fun covers, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 100 cover. That was a fun cover to do. It was well received, and I don't think that killed any part of the market. I think it gave options, right? So when you have more options, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that when those options end up being a bad thing for one reason or another. Yeah. So as far as so when you go to, it doesn't matter whether it's an indie or one of the big two, when you go to do your your exclusive, you've got say in concept, and so part of that concept is homage covers. So, and people rip on them, and I've ripped on them in the past, right? But then I turn around and I'm like a huge hypocrite because they sell well. Like my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 100 cover is a homage cover, but it's a great homage cover. My Absolute Carnage cover was a homage cover, but it sold great. So people like them, but I think they have to be well done. The Star One we've done is a homage cover, so they do sell well. But the other thing is they never negatively impact the original. And I would actually say a well done homage cover will bring more attention to the original, especially if it's forgotten about. Like if someone does kind of like, let's use this for an example. There's that Marvel Spider-Man. This wasn't an exclusive, but this was something that played off of homage. Was the Marvel Action Spider-Man was an homage to, I think it's Spider-Man 342 or 346 or something like that. Really cool Eric Larson cover. I like the original better. And when that cover came out, it drew a lot of attention back to that cover. So exclusives can actually have positive impacts on other covers too in that regard. So Nelson's got a question: is it better to do indie exclusive better than mainstream? Would you agree? Yeah, I like I said earlier, I love doing indies more, because not only can you bring an artist into to consumers' attention that they may have never heard of. Like Shannon Mayer's a great example. So Shannon Mayer, he was originally doing like I think his very first cover was that dark red cover for the Comic Man, if I recall correctly. But those covers were so successful that he's actually doing Marvel covers now, and I probably would be able. He probably would be approved to do a DC cover as well. So, yeah, actually, you know what? I did think about doing a Hulk 180 homage from when I made that post earlier about the facsimile that came out. So Primetime Comics says, I used to pay for rare covers for the art. I'd pay a premium, but they refuse the same art now, and they call it yeah. The foils are another thing. Those are exclusives, but they're not necessarily. It's a good secondary option, like Detective Comics 880. I don't think those foil comics damage the value of Detective Comics 880. And I think it was a decent opportunity. So that one's like not awful, and it gives people who can't afford the original a better option than just a reprint, because the foil covers do look cool. At least I think they look. I like the way they look, the way they're printed. But those are fine too. But I'm talking like when it ruins the value of something. I'm talking something that's either hasn't been released yet or has been recently released. Teen Titans 12. The foil for that was released way after, and that was released kind of in response to, because that value had already gone up. Like that was already an established book when Teen Titans 12, that foil was released. So a lot of it has to do with the timing of the book being released too. So obviously, if you release an exclusive that is a virgin version of the trade dress and it hasn't been released yet, it's going to tank. Both books' values are not going to hit optimal value, for sure. So, I mean, it is what it is. It happens. It is what it is. And as consumers and retailers, we just have to adjust and put our money in places where it either rewards yourself as a consumer or a retailer. You know. Any other questions before I go? I gotta start doing CGC pre-screening and putting together invoices for send off for tomorrow. So I'll be up late doing that stuff. Any more questions? Okay, a question is, when consumers go to trade books at their LCS, is there a golden percentage that LCS use when they give the order? Like, have they always offered 20% of what they plan on listing at? So, yeah, that's more of a pricing strategy discussion versus an exclusive discussion. But I'll hit on it a little bit. Like when I price mine, I usually just go by cover price, right? I've got a rewards program in place that rewards you, gives you cash back, so you're getting not only just on new releases or pre-releases, you're getting money back on all purchases. So I don't really deep discount my my pre-FOC sales too much, because ever since I did institute the rewards program, that it kind of acts like a built-in discount that encourages you to come back, because you have to come back and use those points. Where if I give you a discount at the register, you already saved your money, you're gone. You can't use the money you saved necessarily on your next purchase. So that's why, as a retailer, and that's why a lot of retailers, and you may see more comic book. I don't see a lot of comic book retailers using rewards, but in the future you might see them catch on and start using rewards program, because they work well. Any more questions? I'll just give you, I know you guys have got a little bit of a lag, so I'm gonna just give you some time here to catch up, and I'll answer questions here. All right, I guess we're going to questions. Everybody, it's been great. If you're watching this on the replay, then you've already watched it through the end. I don't even know why I'm saying this, so I'm just going to go now. I was going to say, if you're watching this on the replay, I'm going to post it on YouTube, but you've already watched whatever. So, the exclusives, okay, actually, all right, I will explain that. So, people think, I know, actually, you know what, I'm glad you brought up this Primetime Comics. Good question. He asked, or she asked, I don't know, why are they so much? Why? So retailer exclusive, they are more pricey than if you went to buy a cover A, they're more expensive. Why are they more expensive? Okay. It's pretty basic economics, but it's hard to figure out unless you know what the costs are behind and the risks are behind doing one of these projects. So first off, you got to think of the risk. You're buying 500 books, and your buying cost per unit, depending on the artist fee, is going to be anywhere from $4 to $10, right? So, for example, and I'm just going to put this information out there. So, this is like, I'm going to go by averages. I'm not going to give you exact, but averages. So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 100. So that was considered a premium book. It's got a $7.99 cover price, right? So that means the per unit book is going to be, yeah, dude, I know. Look, it's my curse. The Bengals thing, it's my curse. But I am a Ohio State fan, so I'm at both ends here. Both ends. I'm losing and winning every weekend. So it keeps me humble, right? But it was back to the exclusive. So prices. So prices are based on a lot of things. 1, the artist fee. 2, the per unit cost. 3, the risk. So with retailer exclusives, with the indies, you're going to see a lot more. You're going to see the lower prices, right? So you're going to see with like my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even though it's a $7.99 cover price book, I was selling mine at $24.99. Now I saw some shops selling them as much as $50, and they're more than willing to do that if they have the consumer base that is willing to pay $50 for a single virgin variant of something. More power to them, but I would not do that because I believe in being responsible, and to me, that's a lot of money. That's like $50. Like if I'm gonna drop $50 on a book, it's not gonna be a single book, new book, unless I really love the artist. Like unless that's my favorite artist, then I'll do it. But if it's not, then I'm not gonna do it. So I like to try to be more consumer friendly. I keep my customers that I currently have in mind because that's who's gonna buy the bulk of the book. Now, releasing new books. Like a Baby Key, like some kind of new modern that's kind of holding value, you know, like a Teen Titans 12 or something you can get for $50, right? That's where your money's best spent. I mean, $25 key, you don't know, it could drop to 10, it could go up, like, you know, it's a lot different decision. So, but my main point is I like to try to keep my exclusives around the same price because I have the same people buying from me. So if I know you guys. Like, and what I'm talking about is price elasticity. For those people that went to business school, I'm discussing what's called price elasticity right now. So, right now, from the customers that I have, I understand that you guys are willing to pay X amount of dollars per book. So if I want to move these books at this price, or if I know I want to move this amount of book, I can charge this price, and I know I'm going to sell this amount of books based on not only the title, but my customer base and the artist. So obviously, the better the art, the more well-known artist, the bigger their fan base is. So then I have my fan base and their fan base, or my consumer base and their fan base, to be potential customers. So then I can charge more for that. Newer artists that are less well-known, I charge less for because they're not as well-known. They don't have that built-in customer base that they can send my way to pick up their copies and things like that. So a lot of times, if you see somebody with a more well-known artist like a Clayton Crane or somebody, they're going to charge more, and they can do that because I'll pay $50 for a very well-done Clayton Crane book. Like he's one of my favorite artists. That's I would do it. Guilty as charged. I've done it before. I'll do it again, right? But if it's another artist where it's like I'm not a huge fan of that artist, but it's a nice cover, then I'll pay $30 for it. So, and those are things I keep in mind. So that's a huge deal. The print run. So if it's a $7.99 book, and I'm running a 500 copy of print run. So I figure I got my base cost from the publisher, then I got to add on my artist fee. So then I know I'm paying $5 a book, $6 a book, $7 a book, whatever, and it's 500. I have to price it at 20, 22, 30 to sell, to make my sales goal quick enough through pre-sales to get myself above water, so I can go on and move to the next thing. And then I kind of rely on as release date approaches, I still have those sales trickling in, and that's kind of where I start making more of my profit. And so those are all things you factor in. The Marvels and DC exclusives, they're going to be more expensive because they've got the higher buy-ins. You've got to buy the 3,000 copies. So you'll see a lot of times sets selling for $40, $50, even $60 at times, which depending on the artist is totally understandable. But a lot of times I understand it's out of people's grasp. So, and the last thing, I like to get books in people's hands. Like, I don't do, especially for independents, I'm not doing the artist justice if they're sitting in my basement and I'm not putting them in people's hands or in their collections or wherever. You know, if they're sitting in a box in my basement, it does nobody good. So I like to price those a little bit better. You know, between $20 and $30. Maybe less if it's not like a big title like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that has like a huge fan base. If it's a smaller one, like if it's just like when I did Knights Temporal, or what was that one I did? Man, it's late. My brain's not working. I did one. It was like I charged like $12 or something for it, and it was a virgin. So it just all depends. It just depends on the goal of the exclusive too. So yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it, but what I can say is a lot of times it's not price gouging. I always have exclusives in the work. I'm always looking out. I have 2 or 3 artists that I like to work with on independents, and then obviously when I do the Marvels or the DCs, I'm working with everybody in 5 stars, so we can kind of share. So we all give our input on those, as far as artists and concepts and things like that. But I always have at least something in between either 5 star or the indies that I do, something in the works. You know, I actually have one that's already been approved and final. I just haven't teased yet for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 101. I'm waiting for the dust to settle on 100. I don't want turtle fatigue hitting out there. I'll actually probably at some point this coming week start teasing it. I'll put out the picture and put a release date on that. While Turtle 100 is fresh in people's minds, but not too far off, you know, in the distance. So, any other questions? Going once, going twice. All right, guys, I'm gonna bounce. I really do have to start putting these CGC invoices together. I think I got about 100 to 150 books I have to press and pre-screen and get packed. It's gonna be a long night. I got till like 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon to get them all done. So, done all the packing I can do for the weekend. You guys might start getting shipping notifications. I have the vast majority of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 100 copies sent out. I'll be working through the rest of those. I hope to get the rest of those out by the end of the weekend. I'm going to get all the graded ones off to CGC by the end of the weekend, because those things are immaculate between just me and you. I got my fingers crossed for some 10s, man. They're square bound. They're minty. I'm not putting my fingerprints on them. I'm being super careful with them because I want to get 10s for you guys, and hopefully I do. Hopefully I can fill, if not all of the pre-sales with 10s, at least get some of you guys 10.0s, at least the people. I send them out in the order they were ordered. So if you were the first person to order, you're the first person to get a 10.0. That's just how it goes. But yeah. All right. I had a couple. If you're watching this on YouTube, you don't see when I do this, I'm going down and I'm reading. You guys don't see the words, so I was just reading. I had some people saying some things that there might be a question. But anyways, I'm going to bounce now. You guys have a good weekend, and hopefully I get a chance to go live here again here in the next couple days soon. Take care.